Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints 252, your weekly little get-together. We talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Tonight, David, 6 Days in Fallujah returns, The Last of Us series on HBO gets cast, and what the hell is Valheim? I'm hoping you can answer this for me, because this game has blown the hell up over the past 2 weeks since it's been out. But first...
It's funny, is I didn't know you were going to ask about that, and that's fun.
But first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints or later over at YouTube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to join in the conversation. With any questions, comments, concerns, etc. you might have, just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. David, before we get into what the hell Valheim is, because I know that's what you've been playing, I want to talk about what I've been playing for a change.
I was waiting for this. So what have you been playing? I'm like, well...
I have been playing a game, it's in early access right now. Now, it takes a lot to get me to play an early access game. But I saw this the other day, and it was called Dyson Sphere Program. And it's one of those...
Like vacuums?
No, you know what a Dyson Sphere is?
I know what the vacuums are.
Okay, so let me set the table a little bit. This game is a little bit like Satisfactory or Factorio. You know, one of those, you start off with nothing, you slowly build a factory to make yourself obsolete kind of games.
An automation simulator, yes.
The point to this, though, is to create a Dyson Sphere. Now, if you don't know what a Dyson Sphere is, you have experienced this before in multiple things of science fiction, I can almost assure you. It is that object that encapsulates a sun completely to harvest every bit of energy from it.
Okay.
So you start off as a guy on one planet, and you're building little factories, but your eventual goal is to start harvesting entire worlds to create this Dyson Sphere. So you'll eventually leave the planet and you start harvesting the solar system, and then you leave the solar system, then you start harvesting the local sector of this universe to make sure that you have enough material to fully encapsulate a sun. So it is almost as far as you can take the premise.
According to Google, it would take about 120 trillion years to make a Dyson Sphere.
Yes, well, Google sucks. They just want us to stay on Earth forever. They're like, free power? We can't have that.
This is just from an article called Destroying Mercury to Build a Dyson Sphere is a Bad Idea.
Well, I'm going to prove them wrong.
I love the internet.
But that's what I've been playing. I've been really getting a kick out of it. If you like things like Satisfactory or Factorio, then it's something to take a look at. And the main reason why I want to start with that is because Satisfactory, another game of its ilk, is made by Coffee Stain Studios.
And I have a lot of hours in Satisfactory.
Yes. And they also released the big hit right now, and I don't think it's necessarily an exaggeration to say that, of Valheim. So, I want you to explain what the hell Valheim is, because you've been playing it, but I want everyone here to know that within the 13 days it's come out, it has already hit a peak concurrent player milestone of 392,000 players, and there are actively more people playing Valheim than there were actual Vikings in reality. So I thought those two stats went interesting. It also sold it sold 1 million units in 1 week. It's at 2 million now for this little tiny, I don't want to say nothing indie game, but it's by no means huge. The only other guys, these guys made Satisfactory, they made Goat Simulator, they're bought by Embracer Group recently. It's a studio of 5 people, but they have seemed to have started
hold on.
This.
Important distinction. Coffee Stain published Valheim.
Oh, they didn't make it. Okay.
Coffee Stain published Valheim. Valheim was made by 5 people. Satisfactory is made by, I think, slightly more than 5 people. I think it's 8 people.
Okay, fair enough. Stealthy Twitchy in chat, good to have you. The chat is saying, according to the Chinese devs who designed the game, they took their inspiration cues from the Dyson Spheres featured in Stellaris. Yes, I didn't read that, but that is what drew me to it, because when you're assembling the Dyson Sphere, it's assembled very similarly to how it is in Stellaris, where you start with like the honeycomb frame, and then you start filling in the panels around it. So seeing the Dyson Sphere come together very much reminded me of how Dyson Spheres work in Stellaris. Now, David.
Yes.
Tell me about Valheim, because you've been playing it.
So here's the fun thing, is that a lot of times a newer game will come out, and I will be woefully underqualified to play it, because I don't play a lot of new things, I have severe game ADD, and I can't ever stick anything out. But I will start this story by saying that upon last checking my Steam, I have 40 hours in Valheim.
And this game has been out for no longer than 2 weeks.
See, what's funny is I didn't even know it was a new game. I was just like, oh, okay, this looks cool. And then picked it up. And it is, I mean, it's a survival game. It's an open world survival game, much like a million other games in its category, right?
Okay, so like think Rust, Ark, stuff like
any
that.
of those kinds of things. Throw in the base building, throw in all the Norse mythology you want. Basically, you're a bunch of dead people, and Odin's like, hey, I got a bunch of enemies in this layer of Valheim, and I need you to kill them. But you're dead, and so you don't remember anything about being alive. So until you interact with an object, you don't know what anything does. So like the first time you grab a branch and you're like, wood can do all these things, and then you unlock a bunch of recipes.
Oh, so that's how they get around your inability to just go, I know how to build a fire. Because your brain is a blank slate because
you don't know how to build a fire until you find a rock and go, okay, I know how to do this.
Okay, that is an interesting way to get around that.
It is. And so the survival aspects aren't too bad because all you have to worry about is hunger. You don't have to drink all the time. You don't have to poop like you do in Ark. But all hunger does is when you're hungry, you have a base 25 health. And as you eat food, your health and stamina increases up to a cap and then slowly drains as the food wears off. So it's kind of an interesting system. So like if you're getting ready to gear up for a big fight, you would want to eat a bunch of food so that you have your max health and stamina. But then during the fight, you might need to snack so that you can try and keep your stats up.
Okay.
The combat is pretty decent. It plays like, I mean, really any MMO, I would say.
So is it turn-based in fighting like a lot of MMOs are, or is it live?
It is real time.
Okay.
Completely real time. So you grab a sword or an axe or whatever, you left click and you swing.
All right.
You know, you get a shield, you hold right click and you block. Your stamina drains when you get hit. It's animation locked, which is fun. Everybody likes that. You can dodge roll. You can do all those good things.
So what sets this apart from other survival games?
And that's the question I've been trying to answer. It's very strange because it doesn't necessarily do anything that completely breaks the mold. It just takes a lot of ideas from other survival games and presents them in a pretty polished way, considering the fact that the game is early access and they have a year-long release schedule planned.
Okay, like when they say year-long release schedule, is that
they're
between
in early
now
access.
and...
They're not planning to have it as a full game for a year.
Okay, so they expect to go live fully in a year. Now, is that release schedule full of like weekly updates and milestones, or is it like once a quarter a new milestone? Like how fleshed out is this release schedule?
That's a great question. They haven't released anything new in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, they just said they plan on having it come out in a year. It's not like a roadmap like I'm thinking of or anything like that.
There might be, but I honestly haven't looked it up. What's funny is I haven't looked up a whole lot about this game. I just started playing it because it seemed fun. The graphics kind of look bad, but the game looks great. And I'm going to try and quantify this. It sits in a weird space where this game almost has like a 90s nostalgia where it uses polygons. And so the characters and the assets are very polygonal. And it's apparent. You can see it. Like your character has all of 4 textures for his head. But everything's smoothed out, and the engine it runs on, like the lighting is amazing. The smoke effects are amazing. So there's a ton of things that are kind of neat about it.
Okay.
Even though it looks like the most polished N64 game you've ever played.
Hey there, Cook Photographer. How you doing? So have you played any other games like Rust or Ark or anything of this ilk, or is this your first time getting to this genre?
I've actually played a bunch. I played a lot of The Forest. I played a bunch of Savage whatever that game was. Savage Lands, I think. I tried to get into Ark for a little bit and then realized the multiplayer was shit. Oh, there's another point for Valheim. It's got working multiplayer.
Okay.
So that's always fun.
What is it that... I know I think you touched on this earlier, but I want to see if I can't narrow it down a little bit to get you to answer it. What is it about this that made you put 40 hours into it that none of the others seem to do?
The settings, the combat's good. There's boss fights. There's rune stones that give you weird hints of story. And I don't know. It's almost got that one more turn syndrome into me. It's somehow activated the RTS side of my brain.
Because you're not the only person that's been playing that. I mean, it's been blowing up on Twitch. 2 million copies for an early access game is huge on Steam, especially within the first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. It was the most played game, short of, I think, Counter-Strike Go was still had more people playing, but that's just how that works.
Yeah, it's satisfying the same way that Satisfactory is satisfying to me. I like going out and just mining for a while, but then all of a sudden, oh man, there's crazy things to fight, and hey, if you're playing multiplayer, hey, we need everybody to come back to base because we're being attacked because it's the middle of the night and monsters decided to show up.
Can you put it on pause, or is it always running 24/7?
It is still running.
So I can go to bed, wake up, and have all my shit gone.
If you are on a server that remained live the whole time, if you're just direct peer-to-peer connecting with a friend and they close the game, everything will stop in the meantime.
Taco's saying he's got like 20 friends asking me to get it. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. This has hit that level of like Among Us or Fall Guys where everyone is talking about this goddamn thing.
Yep. And what's crazy though is I have no idea how deep it is.
Okay.
So I don't know how much more time I can put into it. Right this second, I don't have any plan on stopping because at the moment, what I'm accomplishing in that game is I found a small island with a bunch of trees on it, and I'm in the process of cutting them all down and turning the entire island into my base.
Yeah, I did see that you wanted to turn it into like your pirate island.
Yeah, why not?
And it struck me as, I'm going to go a little bit like inside here for people who are watching. It struck me as like what you did in our game of Greedfall. Where you're just going to mind your own business, build up something powerful, and just come out of the middle of nowhere and whack the shit out of something.
The Seafall campaign we played?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is reminiscent of that.
Kind of the idea. I have a little boat. I got a bunch of resources that are mine. I got a ton of trees. And I'm going to have my own spot. Why not?
Nice. For you all in chat, if you have played this game or you have known someone who plays this, could you tell me why you like it or why they seem to like it? Because I don't get it. I kind of
and that's the crazy thing is I don't necessarily love survival games. I'm not constantly talking about it. I don't play a lot of them. Usually I'll play them for 5-10 hours and be like, okay, cool, I get it. I get the core loop. It's not for me. There's something about this game that's just interesting.
Part of me wants to play it.
Maybe it's that there's dungeons that you can go fight. Maybe it's that there's boss fights that you have to kind of figure out what the boss is and then find out where the boss spawn location is and then figure out what the criteria is that gets you to summon the boss. And then finally fight the boss so that you can lock a new ability that makes it so your character slightly more powerful. The fact that if you die, it has repercussions because everything has a skill point. I completely glossed over this. It's got the Morrowind effect. You want to level up your jumping? Jump more. The first time you jump in this game, your jump goes to level 2.
Okay.
The first time you hold shift to run, your run goes to level 2. Swing an axe. Everything has levels.
Level 2.
And at the beginning of the game, when you die, nothing bad really happens. But I don't know what the breakover point is, if it's a certain number of levels or if it's after you fight the first boss or what. But when I die now, I lose skill points. Ooh. So my character just becomes worse. That's like I had my sword skill at some point at level 30 and then died a bunch of times in a row and dropped it all the way down to 19.
That's rough. That's real rough.
It almost encourages you to like play safe and to play smart.
Okay.
And it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it really does seem like any other survival game. So if you absolutely hate the genre, you're not going to like this game. So don't think that it's breaking the mold because it's not. It's just taking a bunch of ideas that I think a lot of other survival games have had. And it's just, I don't know, they're weirdly polished. And I think the game is fun, especially if you're playing it with friends. If you're playing it by yourself, it's probably interesting.
Which brings me to the point that I was going to ask because I have an interest in this game, but I mean, you know me. The time that I can actually play with other people is the time when everyone's already asleep.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's ever going to happen, unfortunately. But I do want to take a look at it. So yeah, that is Valheim. It is the big thing going on right now, and and
the music's great.
Okay.
And getting in a boat and driving it as the sun goes down and the music's going. It's just, I don't know.
There's something about it that people are into, and that's what's surprising to me because we've had the big ones. We've had Rust, we've had Ark, we've had a bunch of very mediocre ones too, and none of them seems to have hit as hard and as fast as this one did. So I'm trying to figure out what the secret sauce here is.
Maybe it's also a little bit of the right place, right time. There's not a whole lot of stuff coming out right now.
I'm sure that's part of it.
This shows up and Maybe it's just the game of the week. Survival games
It's
are
the dying light effect.
I don't want to call them dead, but I mean,
there are a lot of bad
ones.
There are a lot of bad ones. There are a lot of ones that never come out of early access. That's why it's a genre I don't pay much attention to, because every week there's like, it feels like there are 2 or 3 new ones announced on Steam, and they are perpetually in early access, and they never ever come out. They're always unfinished. So I just kind of just gloss over the genre as a whole. But damned if I didn't miss this one. Let's see. Coke for Tacos in chat asks, "Do you guys think that a harsher flame means it'll burn out quicker?" I don't know. I tend to believe that, but I don't know if I can actually base it on anything, because I felt the same way about Fall Guys and Among Us, and now while neither one of those 2 games are as popular nearly as they were, they didn't completely die out either.
Dude, I played Fall Guys on Friday. I still love that game.
But you're not hearing about it every single day like you were when it first hit, is what I'm saying. Let's see. Stealthy Twitchy in chat says, "Once the pandemic lifts, I suspect these pan flashes will wilt away as people rediscover life outside the bubble." There is something to that, because PC gaming had like a gangbusters year overall last year.
Renaissance.
Over the past year, because everyone's fucking stuck in their house right now.
Mm-hmm.
So PC gaming really took off as a general. I don't have the article here, but there was one today in front.
Maybe by the time you talk to me next show or the show after, I'll say, "Oh, I found the final boss and I'm done with that game."
Yeah, that could be it.
And I'll shelve it until they're done with it. And then when they're done with it, maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't, because that's always the crux of early access, right? Is that if your game is super fun, people will play it, but if they've reached all the content, then maybe they stop, and maybe the full release version is just significantly better, but people don't want to come back because they've already kind of figured out the core gameplay loop.
Right. That's why I tend to stick away from early access games, because I don't want to burn out on something and then have it be fully complete and then go, "Oh, I don't want to spend..." Like, Baldur's Gate's a great example of this. I played it for 2 hours, went, "Okay, I see what they're doing. I'm putting it aside. I'm not touching it until it comes out," because I don't want to play through Act 1.
I played Baldur's Gate 3 for 50 hours.
Yeah.
And then decided to put it aside and wait for the rest.
I don't want to play through Act 1 over and over and over again, and then have the full game come out and still play through Act 1 yet again. As an aside note, by the way, apparently there is a big Baldur's Gate patch going to be announced tomorrow. I think the details for it come out tomorrow, so something to keep an eye on. But yeah, let us know what you think about Valheim down in the comments below. I'm not bashing it, by the way. I just haven't played it, and I'm just curious to know what that special sauce is that seems to be making this one hum.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I don't think anyone can properly define exactly what it is. It's just
someone in chat was mentioning the same thing. They keep trying to ask what makes it special, and no one can give them a straight answer. So I think you're right.
You go to a new restaurant and you order a sandwich, and they make the sandwich, and it's just good. It's not the best sandwich you've ever had, but you keep going back to that sandwich because every time you take a bite, it's the same quality.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. No, I get it. I understand. David, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story here. This one actually really not only surprised me, but I'm kind of excited for it too. Headline from IGN: canceled Iraq War first-person shooter 6 Days in Fallujah resurrected for 2021 release. To the article. 6 Days in Fallujah, a military first-person shooter based on the real Iraq War battle, had been resurrected by a new developer and publisher after being canceled by its original publisher over a decade ago. Set for release on PC and consoles this year, the new version of 6 Days in Fallujah is developed by Highwire Games. By the way, Highwire Games is... the only other game they've done is Golem for the PlayStation VR, if you want to see what their track record was. Back to the article. Highwire Games is a studio founded by Halo's lead designer and publisher Highwire Games, a studio founded by Halo's lead designer and published by Victura. A tactical shooter game, the game is based on the events that took place in 2004 during the Second Battle of Fallujah. With accuracy in mind, over 100 Marine soldiers and Iraqi civilians have been interviewed to ensure authenticity. As an aside, I like that they actually didn't just interview Marines, but they actually interviewed the Iraqi civilians who might have been in that too. I think that's really cool to get the personal life on who was living in that cities on there. Back to the article. The campaign depicts 6 days of conflict as experienced by the U.S. Marines as they attempt to recapture Fallujah from Al-Qaeda. The original version of 6 Days in Fallujah was announced in 2009 by developer Atomic Games and publisher Konami, but was met with criticism from war veterans and anti-war groups. This caused Konami to pull out of the project. The development team of the new version of 6 Days in Fallujah is headed up by Jamie Griesmer, who was the lead developer on Halo and Destiny, while music is provided by Halo's original composer, Marty O'Donnell. A number of ex-Bungie staff make up Highwire, including former design director, character, vehicle, and weapon artists. Victura has said nothing more of the details in the game, had said that more details on the game will be released in the coming weeks. I remember when this game was first announced.
So what's weird to me, though, is in like 2012 or 2014 or whatever, wasn't this game just completely finished? They were just waiting for a publisher?
This game was done, from what I understand. I think it was, if not done, then like 90% done. And then...
Are they retooling it, or are they just polishing, or are they...
I don't know. When the game was first shown in 2009, I believe, I remember it being third person. This is not third person anymore. It's first person. So I know it's at least changed in that respect. Because I remember looking at this thinking it reminded me a lot of Full Spectrum Warrior or Band of Brothers. Not Band of Brothers, Brothers in Arms.
Okay.
Where it had like that very tactical, you have to flank people kind of style. And I was really looking forward to it because I liked both of those games. Then the controversy hit, and it didn't even take but a week for Konami to pull out. They canceled this. People lost their jobs over it after working for months and months and months on it, and that sucked. Of all the games for me to see come back, I did not expect this one to be one because I thought it was just still too hot to touch. But I am really looking forward to playing this because I like the idea of a modern shooter set during an actual real-world campaign, because I think if they do it along the lines of, say, Spec Up the Line, where it didn't shy away from even the horrible shit that happened, I think you could have something special here. Plus, the development team behind it. I mean, you have Marty O'Donnell doing the music for it. That's the Halo guy.
Mm-hmm.
You have a bunch of ex-Bungie vets who, I mean, Halo, Destiny, back during round one, are working on it. So it has the talent behind it to really make it sing. And the fact that they didn't just talk to soldiers, but they talked to civilians who lived in the battle, or at least lived in Iraq. I don't know if they specifically lived in Fallujah itself. The article doesn't say that. But I like that they're getting all these different viewpoints to contribute to the game as well. And it's checking all the boxes for me.
It's a good point that you make about like accuracy and even like the Spec Ops comparison, because this can kind of go one of two ways. It can be a completely out of touch, generic military shooter set in a very delicate situation.
And I'm worried about that.
Or it could be a fucking masterpiece of real life storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's really a middle ground. If they half-ass anything, then it's going to err to the side of the former.
That is why I wanted to highlight the dev team working on this, because it is a bunch of experienced people. It's not this isn't their first rodeo, right? I mean, they've only made one game, which was Golem, as a studio, but all these people came from very established first-person shooter backgrounds, which is why I think it has since switched genre from being a third-person action to a first-person experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really interested. I don't say I'm necessarily looking forward to it. Let me put that off of that. I want to see what this game is.
No, I mean, I could safely say I'm probably not going to play it.
All right, let's see.
I don't really play a lot of this kind of stuff, but it just it really depends. If, like I said, if it comes out as a generic shooter, I'm going to be upset if it's just a generic shooter, because this game has such an interesting history behind it, because it was canceled, because of the subject matter, because of the controversy that happened around it. If it pulls like a Spec Ops thing and it's trying to get people to realize the reality of the horror of war,
mm-hmm.
and it actually has something to say, then yeah, that's I mean, we've already had films about this region in these times.
And that's what bothered me about it getting canceled to begin with. Because in 2000, it's been 10 years.
Because video games are the children's medium, according to the mainstream media, at least.
And 10 years is a long time.
10 years ago.
12 years, rather, is a long time. It's how long it's been since it's canceled. So 10 years ago, it was seen as more of a kid's thing than it is today. You still have a lot of people going, oh, that's a game, whatever. But in those 10 years, we have come so far in video games as like a storytelling medium.
The average gamer is a dude in his 30s.
Yeah, I think it's like 38 or 39 or something like that. But I think that I think you're right when you said this has to nail on all cylinders and it could be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything feels overly gamey, it will cheapen the entire game.
Yeah.
So you gotta watch out for that. Let's take a look. Let's address some things in chat here. Chat says the PvP game Squad has a fairly accurate representation of Fallujah added recently. I've never heard of Squad.
So. Squad is a like hardcore tactical shooter.
Okay, I've just never heard of it.
People like it.
Let's see. I'm skeptical it will get much traction beyond the controversy that it has generated. I'm not, because of the names behind it. Because of Marty O'Donnell alone. Because while he's just a composer, that name is going to generate eyeballs. It will be like saying Ken Levine's making something. Well, that guy made System Shock, so that's going to, or BioShock.
I don't think that's necessarily same. Like, I didn't know who Marty O'Donnell was until you added Halo's original composer.
Okay.
So he doesn't sell anything to me.
Fair enough. Those names pop in search engine optimization. The controversy pops in search engine optimization as well, which means you're going to see outlets talk about this.
Yeah, it'll get clicks, but it just, like I said, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it too much because it really depends on what this game looks like.
Yeah, and we don't. Let's be honest here. We know nothing about it other than that it was based off of a canceled game. We don't know what's been changed on it. We've seen a few screenshots. They do say that expect more information to come soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we'll be returning to this before long. But I'm just excited to see a canceled game back. That alone just doesn't happen all that often. Subject matter aside.
Something coming back. Yeah, that's fair.
David, why don't you go ahead and lead us to the next story here?
All right, in a gaming adjacent story from our favorite games journalist, Variety, The Last of Us HBO series has cast Pedro Pascal as Joel and Game of Thrones breakout Bella Ramsey as Ellie. Have you heard of those people, Steven?
Yeah, I know them both.
The upcoming Last of Us series adaptation at HBO has cast Pedro Pascal as Joel and Bella Ramsey in the role of Ellie. Variety has confirmed. Neil Druckmann, a writer and creative director for The Last of Us video game and a co-creator of the series, confirmed the news about Pascal on Twitter, writing, "And there's the other half. Stoked to have Pedro aboard our show." Pascal seen great success at the start of Disney Plus's The Mandalorian. He also recently appeared beside Gal Gadot and Kristen Wiig as the villainous Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman 1984. Life is good. Make it better.
It could be better.
Ah, fuck. Oh, I gave it my
That's
best.
it. Hey, you know what? I wouldn't have said that, but you fucked up the only part of that entire movie that was actually good.
As is my role. Ramsey is best known for her role as Lyanna Mormont in fellow HBO series Game of Thrones.
Now, do you know who that is? Did you watch Game of Thrones at all?
I watched the first 2 seasons, I think, of Game of Thrones and said, this show's taking too fucking long, and then bailed on it. And then everyone said that the last season was so bad, and I don't even have to say last. The last season was so bad that it destroyed that show from the fandom of internet culture.
Yeah, no one talks about it. It's not even referenced anymore. More people talk about Lost today than Game of Thrones. That said, let's talk about Game of Thrones real quick.
I just think it's fun because that means I didn't miss anything.
Bella Ramsey played the role of Lyanna Mormont, who was just this badass in that show. She was like 12 years old, but she was like a lord of some kind. And she was always just like, fuck this, I'm fighting on the front line. She always wanted to get in like the fights and the wars. And that person cast more shade than anyone else in that show combined. And she was like 12.
Cool.
She looked like she could fuck you up. And she did. Spoilers for a show that's like 2 years old. She ends up getting killed because like this fucking giant picks her up and like starts squeezing her. But when she goes out, she says, fuck that, takes a sword, stabs that thing right in the eye, and then goes down. Oh, God. I really enjoyed her character from Game of Thrones. But I do agree the 8th season was bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways,
I watched the first 2.
What do you know who these two people are? You know who Pedro Pascal is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course
you might not know who Bella Ramsey is, though. Do you think that he looks the part of Joel? Because I think he can pull a decent Joel off.
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really care. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Bella Ramsey, I've only seen her in the Game of Thrones, but I liked her in it. I like this casting. I think it's a solid casting.
I think I'm at the point now with video game adaptations that I don't really just make it so the people that are acting don't suck. Don't try and make it so they look picture perfect to the source medium.
Don't
because
fall
when
into
you
that
do
uncanny valley. You get the Avengers game.
No, I don't even mean that. If you just cast the person who looks perfect for the part but can't act the part, then it's gonna suck. Like 99% of video game adaptations. So just cast talent and let them tell the story.
Let's see. Chat saying zero interest, zombie fatigue from The Walking Dead, and video game story source has run its course. IMO. I am disappointed that this is going to follow seemingly beat for beat the story of the game The Last of Us, because I know how that ends. I've seen that story. I've played through it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I still want different stories from that universe, though, and I almost wish that Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey were not playing Joel and Ellie, but just two other people trying to survive in this world. I think that is a far more compelling
fucking
show.
Answer. If you're going to take a property and transform it into a TV show, then tell an adjacent story.
Yeah.
Or an opposing story to the one that's already been told. Also on board for the Last of Us show, by the way, the Chernobyl creator Craig Mazin was attached to write and executive produce the series along with Neil Druckmann.
That's great too. I love Chernobyl.
There's a good amount of talent behind this, but Last of Us fans, I don't know how many are lining up to watch the Last of Us show at this point. And people that don't play video games, are they going to show up for this?
I think the names behind it is going to push it. HBO's behind it. If they really like, if they think a series is good, they know how to market it. I think you're going to start seeing the media machine hyping this up as we get closer and closer to it. I want to see what they look like in character. Mm-hmm. I want to kind of get an idea for the tone. It helps that Druckmann is like co-creating this. He seems to be very active in taking the hand on this.
That is actually a point in the game or in the show's favor, is that you actually have the creative director of the video game working on the television show, which is pretty damn rare.
No, the stars are aligning for this one for it to be great. Not just good, but great. That said, I think both of you are going to be just harsher on it because we have seen so many mediocre video game adaptations that it's a blessing and a curse, right?
Name a good video game movie. Go.
Mortal Kombat.
Name a second one.
Silent Hill.
Damn it. But if you asked me the same question, I would have said the same too.
Yeah, exactly. And neither one of those are like great movies. They're fine. They're passable. I think the original Mortal Kombat movie and Silent Hill are both good B-tier rental movies.
Yeah. They're popcorn movies that are faithful enough.
Yeah. The most faithful adaptation of anything I've ever seen, though, is still Dredd. Not the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd movie, but the Carl Urban Dredd movie.
I know, but that's not a video game.
No, but that's if you want a good adaptation of anything, watch that movie. I think that captured Dredd perfectly.
Dredd is good, but we're not talking about Dredd. We're talking about The Last of Us.
I know, David. I'm trying to fill time out, god damn it.
We don't need to fill time. We've never needed to fill time.
All right, let's
talk about Hackers.
Let's move on to The Hackers is a great movie.
The Hackers is a great movie.
Man. Let's move on to the next story here. So, this is via GamesIndustry.biz. Headline: Hackers claim to have sold the Cyberpunk 2077 Witcher 3 source code. Now, if you recall, CD Projekt Red had a pretty big hack which stole a whole bunch of data from them, and CD Projekt more or less admitted that this happened. The hackers did say they were going to put up for auction, and it looks like it just happened, to the article itself. The data stolen from Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red has been reportedly sold. Cyber intelligence firm Keyless shared an image from the forums where the hackers were auctioning off the source code for several of the studio's games, in which the group claims to have accepted an offer for the compromised data. The post states the auction is closed, adding, quote, "An offer was received outside the forum that satisfied us, with the conditions of further non-distribution. In this regard, they were forced to withdraw the lot from the sale," end quote. The group asked for a starting bid of $1 million, with a minimum offer increase of $500,000, or the option to purchase it outright for $7 million, kind of like the buy it now option on eBay.
Yeah, exactly.
It is unclear how much money the hackers accepted in the end. So it looks like they sold it. Now,
What's crazy to me the post stating with the conditions of further non-distribution. They sold.
So whoever bought it said, we'll pay for it, but you cannot give this to anyone else, which makes me wonder if CD Projekt Red just bought it.
Like, potentially, I guess. But it also, how do you verify? Did they just give them half the money? And then,
what happens if this hacker group 2 years from now, or even 2 days from now, just goes, okay, here it is again.
Yep. Like okay, here's your thing, cash the check. As soon as the check clears, they post it on the internet.
What if, and this gets a little in like the corporate warfare side of things. What if it was like 2K or EA that bought this under the condition of anonymity?
I mean,
so that way they could just bust down what the source code was. What if it was like a rival video game developer that did this? Because I can see why then they would add that in there. Because they want to take a look at it. They don't want anyone else to get the secret sauce of what makes The Witcher The Witcher.
It's just, I don't know. It's a very interesting
scenario. I'd be very curious to know who bought this. Or it could also be some cybersecurity firm. It could be Keela that bought it, and this is a way to track down where they're coming from, and they're just going to get their ass handed to them later. Who knows? But it looks like the source code.
I'm just thinking, if it's written up with conditions, does that mean that there is some kind of like written contractual agreement between
David,
the two parties?
If you can't trust a hacker, who can you trust?
People that aren't hackers?
Hey there, Salty Frank. How you doing?
I tend to trust animals.
The story has been fascinating, and I'd be very curious to see if we ever find out who bought it. Because I really want to know who would buy this, but go through the care to go, you can't sell it to anyone else. And if the hacker group just doesn't do it, I don't get it. Like, I would not trust these people to save my life.
Right? It's so weird. But I don't know. Maybe they're running a business. Maybe they're a legitimate hacker group. I don't know how any of that works.
I mean,
whoever bought it, do me a favor and pay for one of those planes that has the big banner behind it that says, we bought the Cyberpunk source code. So that we know what's going on.
From what I do understand, this is an established group. And, I mean, you live or die in your reputation. So if this is what they do, they steal stuff and make money reselling it. If you burn one person once, that word gets around and then no one buys it again. So there is that to consider, I guess. It's just weird. We have a couple of quick stories. They're not quick, but they are smaller compared to the other ones I want to get through. Real quick. Salty Frank in chat says, since they hack CD Projekt Red, does that make them a red hat hacker as opposed to the black hat and white hat hackers? They're Russian, I believe. So, if anything, that would make them a red hat hacker.
Oh, jeez. Grown in other news. I want to talk about this.
Do you want to read this?
Because it's funny to me. And I just like things that entertain me. So, everybody, brace yourselves. The series that 3 people give a shit about is finally coming to PC.
Oh, so yes, here's the thing. I know you always say 3 people, but way more than 3 people. This is a big series. This is a huge franchise.
I know. That's why I get to double down on the Schadenfreude. Kingdom Hearts is coming to PC as an Epic Game Store exclusive. This means Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix and HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue and Kingdom Hearts 3 and Remine and Melody of Memory are all coming out on your PC, exclusive on Epic, March 30th.
Also, there's something else I wanted to bring up too. I've been meaning to bring this up for a couple of shows now, but you get such joy from it. But I don't think anyone cares about the Epic Game Store stuff anymore, man. I don't see it anywhere.
I know they're out there. And even if it's only 3 people that are salty about it, that's enough for me.
Hopefully for you, just because I want to see you happy. I hope that Venn diagram with the 3 people that care about Kingdom Hearts are also the same 3 people that hate the Epic Game Store. Hearts on
PC. Man, if you want to get into one of the most convoluted batshit Square Enix-based storylines available to you to play and purchase all, 190,000 hours of, you can, provided you do it on Epic.
You know what the thing is? I really like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. I think those are great games. The third one, The third one is one of those things that it requires you to play all the side shit to kind of understand what's going on. And as such, since I didn't do that, I felt it was very anticlimactic, which is a shame because Kingdom Hearts 2 was such a high point of the PlayStation 2 catalog that I felt like the wait was not worth it.
For the uninitiated or those that don't know my opinion on this thing, I don't hate Kingdom Hearts. I never played any of them because while I was a big Square fan and was a big RPG fan back in the day, I have never in my life given two shits about Disney. My parents raised me on 80s movies, not cartoons. So I have no nostalgia for any Disney property. It's just the way I am. So when they said, here's a cool new Square RPG, and your main party members are Goofy and Donald, I said, why? And proceeded to bounce off that franchise super hard. And then this series went on for 14 years of people just anxious because they would get a little tiny bit of story, but they had to buy a DSi to play it or whatever. That made me laugh.
See, I like Disney, but I like their weirder shit. So I like, for example, Tron. I like The Black Hole. I like Captain EO starring Michael Jackson. I like their weirder, smaller stuff. I don't really like their bigger stuff.
Shout out to Salty Frank. Kingdom Hearts, more like Kingdom Farts, am I right?
God damn it.
Oh,
I hate both of you.
Chat gets me.
So yeah, it is big that they're coming to PC though, and if I'm not spending $60 a pop, if you want the entire collection, it's like $200. But if they ever go on stuff for like 75% off, I'll probably buy them, just have them on PC.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd spend the full money on all of it.
Yeah,
it's a little ridiculous.
Old game is old.
It's cool that they're coming to PC though, and we've discussed that I don't really have much of an issue with the Epic Game Store. If you have a problem with it, I know their storefront's not as great and blah blah blah. Their servers are less reliable. Just get his flipping.
It's a better shape today than it was a year ago.
And put the money in your account and buy it that way.
Yeah. David, let's move on to the next story here. I'm actually excited for this. Looks like Star Wars Republic Commando is heading for the Switch via Eurogamer.
Hell yeah.
A tactical first-person shooter, Republic Commando was originally released on the PC and the OG Xbox. Set during the Clone Wars, it lets you play as a clone trooper, command the rest of your squad alongside you. Overnight, Switch eSOP data miner NW Player 123 noticed the game had been added to the Nintendo Store servers ready for release. Its developer listed as Aspyr, which has previously handled ports for various other Star Wars games, such as Episode 1 Racer. I fully believe this is true. I don't think that this is fake at all. The fact that they have Aspyr making it more or less confirms it to me. Republic Commando was amazing. I would love to hope to see a Republic Commando 2 one day.
Now, does it have any kind of like retexture or smoothing? Because I know...
Don't know.
Racers did look a little better, right? It wasn't a straight port.
If Aspyr is indeed handling the port behind this, if that is true, then yes, it is going to be a clean port. It won't necessarily be like updated textures, but it will look clean.
Yeah, see, that's cool though.
I'm looking forward to that.
Shout out to Switch games.
Couple more stories here. We have Tales from the Borderlands returning to digital stores next week via GameSpot.
I'd forgot this left, but we talked about that 2 years ago. I feel like it's been gone forever at this point.
Yeah, when Devolver, when Telltale went kaboom, a lot of their titles disappeared off storefronts.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're coming back slowly but surely. To the article. Tales from the Borderlands, an episodic point-and-click adventure game developed by Telltale Games before it closed, is returning to digital stores next week. This was announced during the Borderlands show, where Gearbox also confirmed the details and a release date for Borderlands 3 Director's Cut. The game was removed from digital stores as part of Telltale's shutdown, but the game will be coming back to PS4, Xbox One, and PC on February 17th, tomorrow, as of recording. This game will be available with all 5 episodes in one package. Now, Telltale closed its doors in October 2018. The shuttering shocked fans and critics of the company who were still, as the studio was still wrapping up development on The Walking Dead: The Final Season. Now, The Walking Dead: Final Season was eventually finished with outside help through Skybound. That's Robert Kirkman's publishing label, essentially, and he's the guy that makes The Walking Dead. But Telltale Games, if you recall, was completely closed. Everyone was fired, and now it's come back. And I think they've rehired a lot of people, but maybe not everyone. I'm not too sure on the details on that. But now that it's back, it is slowly starting to drip feed the stuff out. I will say, when it comes to Telltale's brand of adventure games, Tales from the Borderlands is possibly the best thing they've ever done.
Oh, interesting.
I liked it even better than the first season of The Walking Dead. I think Telltale's Tales of the Borderlands it captured the Borderlands spirit very well. I think it did it better than any of the Borderlands games do. It has Handsome Jack in it, which is one of the greatest cartoon video game villains of all time. And the acting on it was spot on. I loved it. I loved it from top to bottom. And it ended on like a cliffhanger, which I wish got resolved, but they just kind of glossed over it in Borderlands 3 and went, oh yeah, here's everyone again. I'm like, thanks for explaining what happened. All right, guys, let's go. But if you haven't played it and you were a fan of Telltale stuff, I recommend picking that up.
Well, there you go.
One more story, David, as we wrap up here.
From gamesindustry.biz, the first PS5 Drift class action lawsuit filed against Sony. This referring to the DualSense controller. Law firm Chemicals, Schwartz, Kreiner, and Donaldson Smith LLP filed a class action lawsuit against Sony regarding the PS5's DualSense controller drift. If you have not heard, people have been reporting of analog stick drift, which is when your controller is basically getting like a ghosting input and like constantly going up and to the left a little bit.
Which is weird. I haven't experienced this yet, but I experienced it a lot with Switch controllers. I've gone through like 3 of them.
Infamous with the Switch controllers, and even worse with the Switch Lite, where you can't replace the controller. Anyway, back to the story. The lawsuit, a copy of which was sent to gamesindustry.biz, argued that the DualSense controller is defective as it suffers from a drift defect, a problem that sees it recording input even when the player is not using it. The issue compromises the DualSense controller's core functionality. That's a quote. The document continued, adding that Sony had been made aware of these issues through online consumer complaints. The lawsuit mentioned the case of a player encountering drift issues as early as 10 days after their purchase, directly quoting the Kotaku report that unearthed the drifting issues just last week. The lawsuit pointed out that the repair options at this stage are slim and also accused Sony of failing to disclose this material information to consumers, despite being aware of the defect. Controller drift has become a prominent issue for every platform hardware, with numerous lawsuits against Nintendo across Europe, the US, and Canada, while Microsoft recently asked a US district court judge to force plaintiffs in a lawsuit over defective Xbox controllers to go to individual arbitration.
I didn't know Xbox had this problem either.
Apparently, hardware manufacturers no longer know how to make controllers, and I say, fuck them. Sue all of these guys until they fix their products.
Yeah, that this is one of those things where if it starts happening in great enough numbers, I have a hard time believing they didn't know that was a problem.
I don't care if they didn't know it first. If it is a problem, they should fix it.
Absolutely. But the lawsuit, one of the key things of this PlayStation lawsuit seems to be it's going to hinge on whether or not Sony willingly knew and willingly deceived people, or if this was a defect that was caught after the things were sent out and they didn't know about. That is going to affect things.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Either way, if it's a problem, fix it.
Yeah, seriously, just do the right thing.
Yeah, you too can join this class action lawsuit though and get your $5 to go for your against the cost of your $80 or $100 controller. Right. How much does the DualSense 5 of the DualSense cost? Isn't it like $80 or $100? It's expensive.
I thought it was $70.
There are other problems I'm hearing with the DualSense as well too, because apparently those amazing pressure triggers that I absolutely love, the haptic feedback stuff, apparently that's held by like a very thin piece of material, and that is like breaking a lot of controllers, and it's breaking not to make it really loose, but make it really, really tight.
Oh, great.
So people are going to go like this to push down on it. That is what I am hearing, anyways. I haven't seen any lawsuit over that yet. Could have been someone dropped it and that happened.
You haven't broken yours yet?
No, I haven't. But I haven't used it all that much either. There really isn't all that much out for the PlayStation 5 right now.
There's 3 video games to play. Yeah. Astrobot, Demon's Souls, and Spider-Man.
Hey, Bugsnax.
Sorry, Bugsnax.
I like Bugsnax. I like Bugsnax quite a bit. But I really like Bugsnax, actually. It's a game that starts off very cute and cheerful, but as it goes on, there is a dark themes and undertones that start developing in there, and it kind of becomes a quasi-horror show. It's really weird that it gets as bad as it does.
I need to just discuss something from chat really quick. Stealthy Twitcher mentioned, speaking of Microsoft, they announced a new Xbox wireless headset, which is true, and I forgot to talk about this today. Novel feature is the ability to simultaneously play/pair audio from both the Xbox and phone, allowing headset users to hear phone notifications and other audio events while playing Xbox games. So you could potentially be like on a call, but also hearing your game, which is neat. And it supports like Dolby Atmos, and it supports the whatever their Windows proprietary Sonic format audio thing is. And I think it's really funny because I did look at their website earlier because I saw all this press release stuff.
Yeah, you're an audio guy.
and it's talking about, oh, it's got like a metal headband and it does all this other fancy stuff. And way down on the page, it finally goes into the hardware specifications, and it is generic as all gaming headsets are. It is not doing anything out of the ordinary as far as raw hardware, so I wouldn't expect it to sound especially better than, say, like a HyperX Cloud or a SteelSeries Arctis or a Astro, literally anything. It's going to sound fine. I'm not saying it's going to be a bad sounding headset, but it's not going to be game breaking. It's going to have some neat features.
All right.
But I did want to bring that up, and I just completely forgot about it. So thanks, Stealthy Twitchy, for mentioning it.
Thank you very much. David, we have one delay to report this week. New World, the MMO, has been delayed. It was supposed to come out spring 2021. Is now slated to come out August 31st, 2021.
Oh, you at the top of the show asked me why people like playing Valheim.
Yes.
I have heard from people that New World is no longer necessary because Valheim does what it did better.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I did like New World, so that's good to know.
That because I have heard from people that are no longer excited for New World because they went, oh, this kind of feels that need for me. Because like I said, it feels a lot like an MMO.
Very cool. Very cool. We have something coming up this week that you need to keep an eye out for. Nintendo Direct is going to be tomorrow on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is going to be roughly 50 minutes of information focused on available games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and games coming for the first half of 2021. This is the first time Nintendo did a general Direct this length since September 5th, 2019. So I expect a lot of information to drop on multiple games except for F-Zero.
Why do you have to do this to me every time?
Particular note, this coming weekend is Zelda's 35th anniversary. So I do expect some Zelda news of some kind, but maybe even a collection along the lines of the Mario Brothers 3D World collection we got not all that long ago. David?
Yes.
It's going to be a while before we get to play anything from that Direct, though. So what can I do to keep myself occupied over the week? So
you need yourself some new releases, and I have a couple for you. First up on the list, the follow-up to 20XX. I don't know if you ever played that game.
That's Mega Man, right?
Yeah, it's basically it's what was that not Mega Man game?
Mighty Number 9.
Mighty Number 9. Okay, so you remember how that game sucked?
Yeah.
20XX did not.
Okay.
30XX is the follow-up, and it is out this week. This is a Mega Man game that has co-op features as well, and it is a little bit of a roguelike action platformer.
Okay.
So take like the Mega Man gameplay, throw in a little bit of roguelikeness, throw in the fact that you can bring a friend, throw in the fact that I have no idea how they've never been sued because of the fact that the main characters are the blue person that has a buster cannon and the red person with blonde hair that has a sword. But that's okay.
Okay.
Because everyone I know that's played 20XX absolutely loved it. This looks like a lot more of the same, and these games have a totally sick soundtrack. It just, I don't know, it's like pixel perfect. It looks rad. So there you go. If you need to get your Mega Man fix in, 30XX. I can't pronounce this next word.
Nebuchadnezzar.
So thank you. Nebuchadnezzar. I've heard that word. I've never read it before.
Yeah, it's the airship that the rebels use in the Matrix, the Nebuchadnezzar.
All right. Well,
it's an ancient Babylonian king.
Well, this is a PC game that is a city builder, isometric city builder.
That's
invites players to experience the mysterious history and culture of ancient Mesopotamia. In the campaign, players get to rule over influential historical cities filled with magnificent monuments. So it's got all your favorite city builder moments. There's the economy aspect, the RTS aspect, and it looks like a city builder to me. It's got 2D vibes. Looks fun. You'll probably play it. I probably won't. And there you go. Void Gore hits PS4, Xbox One, Switch this week as well. This is a 2D top-down shoot-'em-up from the creators of Project Starship, if you ever played that game.
It sounds familiar, but it's not ringing a bell.
A new and nightmarish arcade shoot-'em-up experience. Void Gore casts you as an ace pilot descending through the levels of hell and getting rich in the process. Earn coins to take down supernatural horrors in pulse-pounding vertical scrolling style. And spend them on upgrades to keep yourself alive, improve your skills against online leaderboards. I like shoot 'em ups. I think they're fun. Bullet hells are also fun. this game is the top-down style, so 1942, Ikaruga, those styles of games, and it does have a little bit of like a kind of creepy atmosphere to it because you're going through hell.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into shoot 'em ups, this might be fun to play.
I'll have to take a look at it.
Aeodyne 2 Return to Dust hits the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and Switch this week. This is an atmospheric, story-rich adventure game that is a sequel to Aeodyne, which is a pretty cool video game. You're running, jumping, driving across vast, dreamy 3D landscapes, but it also has a really neat mechanic where sometimes you shrink and it goes into a 2D dungeon. So it goes from like a 3D adventure game to a straight-up top-down 2D pixel dungeon.
Huh.
So,
okay.
Travel the world, meet strange people, and save the world from the dangerous nanodust. The first game was pretty cool, like I said, so I'm actually really interested in the second one. Puss, Like the Cat, comes out this week for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. This is a psychedelic 2D adventure game about a cat. This is a mouse cursor labyrinth game. So the goal of the game is to move your cursor around labyrinth without colliding with often moving dynamic geometry. Like remember Scary Maze?
Yeah, I know the genre.
Yeah, you take your mouse and you try not to hit anything. You're doing that, but it's a really trippy looking cat-based adventure that has
It looks like it did acid.
It does. I don't know exactly how deep this game is because it's a mouse moving game. Maybe it's cool. I wanted to talk about it. Steven Universe Unleash the Light hits PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And as per tradition, I did zero research on this game because it's an Apple Arcade port, and I can't be bothered.
I did not know that. Okay.
That being said, I'm not a complete asshole, and apparently this is like the best game in Apple Arcade. It's an RPG set in the Steven Universe. Have fun. Speed Limit hits PS4, Switch, Xbox, and PC. This game looks interesting to me. This is a genre-warping arcade experience that never slows down. No cuts, no lapses in the chaos. Speed Limit is an old-school action extravaganza boiled down to its core elements: hard, fast, and addictive. The devs have compared it to a John Wick daily commute simulator in that it's a little bit of a 2D shoot-'em-up, a little bit of a precise platformer, a little bit of a driving game, a little bit of a flying a helicopter game. It's every few levels, the gameplay changes dramatically, but they're all kind of the old-style action arcade games.
Okay.
So think of going to an arcade and just dumping a quarters in the mid-'90s and all the different kinds of games you could play. You're driving a car, you're driving a motorbike, you're flying a helicopter, you're running around on foot, you're shooting people. And the entire time, the game is trying to do it without breaking immersion. So while you start on foot and you're running through like a subway, and then your character runs up the stairs and you're on the street and your character jumps into a car and the entire camera pans, keep in mind it's 2D, to being a top-down driving game. And then also driving.
That to take a close look at this. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, so looking at this game, I thought it looked super cool. So I am going to be taking a look at this because there's a free demo available on Steam. So there you go.
David, that
Yes.
does it for new releases, which means that also does it for the show. This has been GamePoints episode 252, and thank you all for showing up. If you like what you saw here and want to support the show, you know what streamers want. Follows and notifications turned on, bits, likes, subs, regardless of where you might be watching, and we will be back again Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints if you want to join the show live. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at CapitalistPigPC. You can follow myself, Stephen Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and you can follow David there at @PowSlife_Satori. By the way, if you want to follow the show, it's at GamePointsPC, not CapitalistPigPC. My apologies. There's a Discord link you can join down below if you want to be part of the greater community, like so many of you are. And I also do normal streaming throughout the week, so be sure to drop on by and see what I'm going to be playing. Beyond that, we're out of here. Thanks for showing up. Always good to have a lively chat. Stay safe, take care, and until next time, be seeing ya.